hearing on Senate Bill 5884 because our prime sponsor is here and I want to honor her time.
Good morning.
If we could get okay, that would be you, Robert.
Hello there. Sorry about that. Don't mean to jump the gun. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Rob Hatfield, staff to the committee. Senate Bill 5884 deals with court-ordered restitution for violations of environmental criminal statutes. For background, there are a number of environmental statutes that provide for criminal penalties for certain violations of those statutes or certain other referenced statutes. These statutes are in the areas of water pollution, air pollution, and hazardous waste management. For example, under the Water Pollution Control Act, which is Chapter 90.48, any person found guilty of willfully violating the provisions of Chapter 90.48, or of Chapter 90.56, which is the statute regarding oil spill and hazardous substance prevention response, is guilty of a gross misdemeanor. Switching over to criminal law, crimes are classified as misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, or Class C, B, or A felonies. The classification of a crime generally determines the maximum length of confinement and the maximum fine for that crime, unless otherwise specified in statute. And then finally, restitution is a specific sum of money that's been ordered by a sentencing court to be paid by the offender as a payment for damages. Turning to the bill before you, sections will be added to certain chapters of environmental law to provide that in determining restitution following a criminal conviction, courts will be authorized to order restitution for harm to natural resources or the environment. And the chapters to which these sections will be added are Chapter 70A.300, that's hazardous waste management, Chapter 70A.15, which is the Clean Air Act, and Chapter 90.48, which is the Water Pollution Control Act. There's a fiscal note available. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
Seeing no questions, Senator Trudeau, welcome to our committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Yasmin Trudeau, I represent the 27th Legislative District, which includes large parts of Tacoma, Browns Point, Dash Point, and Fife. I bring this bill before you I guess as a legacy of entertaining a lawyer that is new to environmental work. I wondered why this wasn't already actually statutorily authorized, and then dug a little bit deeper. So for folks that maybe not as familiar with restitution, restitution is the opportunity after a criminal conviction to really look at the holistic harms that that particular crime may have caused. So for this bill, again, under the three, for water pollution, air pollution, and hazardous waste management, if you are convicted of a crime, this would statutorily authorize a judge to allow for restitution to be ordered. So this doesn't say that it automatically says restitution has to be ordered. It says give a judge in a criminal court on these matters the same authority that they have in other criminal courts to assess the full range of harm. So I think it's really important that we note that this is not unfamiliar. It's just new to this specific provision of criminal law. This, from what I've seen and heard also from issues in my own district, this conversation actually was born from a boat tour that I took with an amazing nonprofit that is a steward of the bay right out of Tacoma, for the waters around Tacoma, and their Communities for a Healthy Bay. I think they're probably signed up to testify. But they actually told me a story about a boat fire. And it was actually a repeat boat fire because the entity sort of wrote off the first criminal penalty as the cost of doing business. Well, the result of that, both of those boat fires, meant that Tacoma had to issue a stay-at-home order, that fire departments then had to be called out and figure out how to uniquely address a boat fire, something they don't do very often. This has significant costs and impacts to the local jurisdiction. It impacted local businesses that had to shut down, that weren't able to operate as a result of this. And so when we think about holistic harms and we think about generational harms, I think it's really significant for us to allow a judge, again, post-conviction, to look at and address ways to restore what happened to the local jurisdiction, for example, to assess the harm on the local businesses, for example. And so I think this really is a good government bill because it is also thinking about, I work on the capital budget. I know that we spend years, sometimes decades of taxpayer money with remediation projects to address the cleanup, again, the generational harm that these types of environmental crimes produce. So I think there's multiple reasons why this is a good bill. It does a little thing with a great impact, and just really happy to answer any questions, but appreciate the opportunity to be heard today.
Representative Sandlin.
Thank you, Chair. Would this apply to retroactive arson in our forest lands?
Unless they were deemed crimes under the 3 statutes that I described, I would defer to staff whether intentional arson falls under any of those 3 statutes.
No, thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative. I agree with the Senator. I don't think, absent different facts that I'm thinking of, you wouldn't see arson pop up in the statutes that are referenced in the bill.
No, so and arson is a crime independently. So like if someone was convicted in a criminal court for arson, the judge would be authorized to look at restitution for that particular crime. But this bill just deals with statutorily allowing restitution under those 3 acts.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I think we'll continue with this. We only have one person to testify.
Shall I introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Great. Thank you, Chair, Ranking Member, members of the committee. My name is Bill Sherman, and I am Division Chief of the Environmental Protection Division of the Attorney General's Office. My division brings affirmative civil and criminal actions to protect Washington's environment, natural resources, and human health using the AG's independent authority under state and federal law. I'm here to testify in strong support of Senate Bill 5884. In our view, this bill would clarify courts' existing authority to order restitution for harm to the environment and natural resources in environmental criminal cases. Existing criminal law includes generally applicable language about restitution in criminal cases, but it can be confusing when applied to environmental criminal cases because environmental cases don't always have a nameable victim the way that a theft case or a vandalism case or an assault case does. So courts would benefit from clear and consistent language codified in statute. This bill would bring that clarity and consistency and offer courts clear guidance about how to go about ordering restitution for quantifiable harm to the environment or natural resources. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
with that, we will close the testimony on Senate Bill 5884 and